Late last summer, I set out to try year-round gardening in Zone 3, and it was a dismal failure. Or was it? Hello, this is Stephen from shortseasongarden.com, and I offer tips and tricks for gardening in any climate, but especially in short seasons like here in Zone 3 in Eastern Canada. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, make a comment, subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell, and you can check me out on social media on Pinterest, Instagram, or Facebook at Short Season Garden, and don't forget to go to my website at www.shortseasongarden.com. Year-round gardening is no big deal if you live in warm zones. In fact, southern gardeners have to wait for cooler weather to grow many of their crops. But here in Zone 3, where we have two seasons, winter and construction, season extension can be a challenge. Of course, northern is a relative term, and I've listened and read with interest to gardeners in Zones 5 and 6 who consider themselves to be northern as they discuss year-round gardening. They've discovered that certain cold weather crops, if grown to maturity before day length gets too short for growing, around the 1st of November here in my latitude, can survive winter and even be harvested periodically throughout the winter. Last year, I set out to try that here. I placed a simple cold frame built from old windows and leftover lumber on a gentle south-facing slope next to my house, with some early morning and late afternoon shading, but not bad. On August 17th, which is really too late for Zone 3, by the light of the moon and a headlamp, I started planting carrots, beets, spinach, kale, lettuce, and other greens. The lettuce and spinach did very well, and the kale would have if the cabbage lupus hadn't found it. The beet greens were good, but the planting was just too late for the beetroots and the carrots to develop. The fact that we had a severe infestation of rust flies last year didn't help the carrots. Still, it was pretty awesome to be picking my own fresh garden salad in late October. Rather than use up the greens, I decided to try to save them over the winter. That's where I made my mistake. In Zone 3, our winters can be harsh, with lots of snow and prolonged periods of extremely cold weather. This was what I found in early April when I opened my cold frame. So I decided that overwintering veggies was not a possibility here in Zone 3. However, as the spring progressed, I kept finding carrots and beets coming up in my cold frame. The carrots I pulled, not willing to give the rust fly a host for the sake of a handful of carrots. The beets I left, and they went to seed, which they should do in their second year. So I began thinking that my cold frame needed another chance. I began looking around for another spot on the property where snow depths were not so severe. You see, my property is very exposed to the prevailing western winds, and you can see here I've got open field to the west of my property. I'm just moving away from my garden, and you can see it's very exposed, and the wind blows and the drifts between my house and my buildings in the backyard. So I get a lot of snow drifts here, and it's very difficult to find a spot for winter gardening where there's not a lot of snowbanks and a lot of drifts. However, during the past 2 winters of winter sowing, or milk jug sowing, I noticed something. The snow depth is more shallow on the lee side of my storage shed in the backyard, next to my row of pine trees. In fact, the snow is completely gone here much earlier than in much of my backyard. Maybe that's the place for my cold frame. So in early July, I laid out cardboard in my new spot and loaded it down to keep it in place. I could have saved myself a lot of back-breaking labor by starting about 2 months earlier. The sod simply didn't have enough time to rot. I'm a little concerned with this location because the pine trees shade the early morning sun while my shed shades the late day sun. Also, I'm wondering if part of the reason for early snow melting is that the tree roots are using up a lot of the moisture. Acid soil from the evergreen trees is also a concern. However, I've added lots of lime, and I hope that autumn rain will help. You will notice that I prepared more ground than my cold frame will cover. I salvaged some extra glass that was being discarded and hope to build an extra frame. I also need to replace some broken glass from last winter and figure out how to elevate the back of the frame since the ground here is not sloped. Yes, I planted spinach again, but I will probably harvest it before the winter really sets in. I am concentrating on root crops and plan to cover my carrots as soon as they germinate to keep out the rust flies. I am also planting moss, also known as corn salad, since it is purported to grow during the Persephone days when there is less than 10 hours of daylight and can apparently be harvested at temperatures below freezing. We shall see.